I'm Dan Costa. I'm the Chief Content Officer at Worth Media Group. I run our editorial operations. We've got a great panel for you today. I'm going to briefly introduce the panelists. You're here, so you know who they are. But Ruth Yomtubian is the VP of Global Innovation at VSP Vision. Next to her, you will find Misha Ann Martin, an Austin native who, Austin native or just Austin? But Austin, just Austin now. VP of People Research at Work Human. And then we have Ann Funai, the CIO and Vice President of Business Platform Transformation at IBM. So we've got some people that know what they're talking about. I actually have a audience query as well. How many people here use AI every day at work? Okay, how many people work at a company that has an official AI policy and knows that you're using AI every day at work? Okay, there's a few fewer hands that are down. I kept mine down because I mean, we don't have an AI policy. I don't know if Josh knows exactly how much I'm using AI every day. I think I suspect how much he's using AI every day, being somewhat familiar with this. There's some really interesting research out there. We're going to get to some really interesting insights. But I want to start with you, Ruth. You know, you titled this this panel, and I love the title because I love puns, and I love double entendre, and I love dad jokes. But there's a lot built into that title, a lot of double meaning. It's there very intentionally, and maybe explain a little bit why you wanted to label it that and what you're trying to get at.
It's actually a fifth dimensional title.
Oh,
just to be clear, we'll go through all five maybe afterwards as a bonus. But you know what really inspired this was actually some conversations from last year and some conversations around the Techonomy table that Josh hosted last year. I think last year at South by Southwest, the conversation was somewhat binary. Is this good or is this bad? And when it came to the entertainment and media industry, we were finding that there were lines out the door, but that people were kind of wondering, is this really a value add? And around that table, it became clear that, hey, this requires a lot of investment and resources, and there's very limited talent. And I started thinking about healthcare being a value add industry that deserves, not just as companies, but as patients, as providers, the attention and the talent of a tool like AI. We also talked about last year that this is, you just said it, this is an old tool. This is a new look at something that we talked about 10 years ago. But the reason why it was a new light on AI is because of the democratization of AI. And the democratization of AI has brought in the benefit to individuals and small businesses. So now I'll bring it back to VSP. At VSP, we cover 90 million lives, and we support about 30,000 private practices. So we have the unique view of being an employer-sponsored benefit, there you go, benefit, where we are helping companies or employers with the livelihood, productivity, and health of their employees and get the most out of their employees. And so we're hearing from them about what they want out of AI. And then in the same hand, we're working with providers, and most of our team has talked to providers who are using AI tools. So many times we think, oh, how are we going to pull them into innovation or push them into innovation or inspire? They are leading the way. So we are seeing small businesses and entrepreneurs. I think 67% of the AI class is entrepreneurs and small businesses of under 500 people. And so we're going to start seeing a divide between the enterprises that are able to move forward and start implementing and getting the value of AI and the small businesses. And then as well, we're seeing data that says that over half of employees are using AI tools, but I think 67% are passing it off as their own work. But why are they doing that? Because they don't really know whether or not they're able to use these tools. And we're going to talk about more and more, but that was the impetus to this conversation, is how are we as VSP going to play a role in optimizing the workspace, tools-wise, health-wise, and supporting our providers and our clients.
Great. I think that's a great level set. I want to go down to you, and IBM obviously was been developing AI from the very beginning, probably also using AI internally for years now. What is how do you see AI inside the company, and how are you IBM employees experiencing it on a daily basis?
Yeah, so for us, some of you might remember Jeopardy, I think, is beating Gary Kasparov in chess, I think even before that. But one of the things that's really important for us as a company is we've started to do, we're calling them Watson X being our AI product. We're doing Watson X days. And everyone at every level of the company, whether you are technical or not, really engaging in put your hands on the tool, try to build something, give us feedback on our product. So it's this nice double opportunity of we all know our own products now, but we're all giving feedback to make the products better as well. And I think it's just it's just a wonderful thing because it starts this when you're technical, my technical background, like, okay, I'm worried about data provenance. I'm worried about admin rights. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that when it comes to AI and agents. But now this is kind of every person starts to think about like, okay, here's going to be the challenge. Here's what I got out of this. Here's what I didn't get out of this that I thought was going to happen. So I think, again, for us, it's really taking the whole company, embracing it, and making it hands-on experience for everybody.
Excellent. So, Misha Ann, you saw half the hands here thought that AI was going to help their employers more than it's going to help them personally. We'll see if that changes over the course of the next 40 minutes. But can you talk a little bit about the role of the human being in this process and how you see it?
Yeah, so I think where AI is concerned, we've made a mistake. You know, that's a bit of a hot take, right? But I feel like we're talking about it more in terms of, you know, productivity and efficiency instead of how can it be mutually beneficial to the employee and can you hear me?
Yeah, a little closer.
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Yeah, instead of how can it be mutually beneficial to the employer and the employee, right? So at WorkHuman, the way we think about it is we use AI to make the human the best human they could possibly be, which can include efficiency, but it also includes helping us connect with each other, you know, things that engage people in the workplace, which then benefits the employer as well as the employee. So it's not, you know, if you do it right, it's not an either or, it should be an and. The other thing that I find really interesting is, you know, that so many people are using it and not saying that they're using it. And I think that's because we've missed the change management element of it. Like we can't even get to full efficiency using AI if people don't understand that that is acceptable and encouraged. So I think we've missed the boat there as well.
So, what are some of those applications if we were to do it right? And do you know anybody that's doing it right? What are the steps you need to take in order to do it right?
So obviously WorkHuman is doing it right, because AI. And we're helping our clients do it right, right? So one of the things to think about is, I think when you thought about technology and people, maybe about 10 years ago, the primary focus was to help people do things, right? And I think now it's evolved to helping people feel things. So the first question should be, to what extent is this adding not just to the humans' efficiency and their ability to complete a task, but to what extent is this adding to the employees' experience at our organization? Like, is this energizing? Is this, you know, helping them connect with fellow human beings? Are we showing the human that we're using this data for their good, for their growth and development? Or are we just saying we're using this to help you do more things? You know, like there's a very different framing when it comes to this. And my opinion is that an efficiency only framing like leaves so much on the table.
Yeah,
Just to build on that, I think got a little louder. I think one of the things you just pointed out about efficiency is that there are a few throwaway words out there, especially when it comes to research that are not really directional. One of them is efficiency and the other is convenience. And on our team, we've actually tried to reduce the use of convenience because convenience is code for I don't want to do it. It's a grudge activity. And so I think that the correct word is optimization. And employees want to be in an optimized workplace. And I was just doing a little sampling around South by. And the other night, I was speaking to a young man, front-end developer, early in his career, and he was making a life move. And he said, I have to be at a company that allows me to use AI tools like a GitHub Copilot and further because I'm too early in my career to fall behind now. And so this is just the beginning of employees starting to look at that lens of, am I in an optimized workplace so that I can stay in the workplace as long as possible?
I think even allows is
It doesn't seem to be on. Here, use mine.
Thank you. I think even allows is to me necessary, but not as much as it could be, right? So allows to me is the foundation. You are allowed to use it. I think when we'll get the most benefit is when people are actively encouraged. We're in this place right now where people are afraid to say, hey, I've used AI to accomplish this thing because they think it's going to make them not as well perceived, make their jobs at risk, right? Like, could the machine do this versus me? And I think that we really need to be intentional about change management around AI. And I think this is where recognition and AI go hand in hand, because what our research says is that when people are actively encouraged to upskill in this way, they feel like the organization actually cares about their growth and development. And so it not only operates as an efficiency accelerator because people are more likely to use it, but it actually acts as an engager because you feel like, oh, my company actually wants me to grow, develop, and upskill. And you get some engagement and retention benefits from that attitude shift.
I think that's actually one of the amazing applications of AI inside an organization is the ability to train employees, upskill employees, and make them feel like they're actually getting something out of it. Um, can each of you just give some examples of how you see that being done well, or how you think the company should do it differently in the future using the tools that are available to us?
So one of the trends we're starting to see is if you think, probably up until maybe 5, 6 years ago, you think about an organization and bringing folks in, think of it like a pyramid shape, right? Get your new hires, et cetera, like coming in, executives get slimmer and slimmer. But what we're starting to see now is more of a diamond shape because of the influence of AI. And for me, I don't know if this is something being done right or wrong, but we're really, really starting to think about that and saying, so both the employee and the employer could be in a bind because of that shift to a diamond shape, saying there's fewer entry level jobs because they can be done with AI now. But at some point, we're outpacing the AI and we're going to need to bring those folks in. And so this is, again, it's a tough challenge in this sense. Probably goes back to, universities may have to start thinking about how they do run their programs. What are the, skills, the coursework necessary? But I think for us, maybe, again, I don't know if it's a right or wrong, we're really starting to think about that diamond shape and the impact on recruiting, bringing in talent, et cetera.
So I like to say I have an audacious imagination. Okay. So go with me here. So some of this is current state, and some of this is what I hope for us to do in the future. So currently there's a revolution around skills, right? And I think that it has so much potential, for example, for people who do not have equal access to get a whole college degree. So imagine if, jobs were broken down into skills and people could qualify based on their skills, not necessarily needing a whole degree from a traditional 4-year university, right? Now, how do you develop these skills? Well, this is where AI can come in, because sometimes we have strengths that we don't even realize. At Work Human, we're using recognition data to help the organization and the individual see how others see them. So imagine that you're working with a bunch of different people doing a bunch of different things, and they have a robust recognition culture. And so you're getting recognized all the time, and that data is captured in our system. Well, now you can use natural language processing to see, well, according to all the people you work with, what are your particular skills? Like, what is your special sauce? And that allows you to see yourself differently and see what kinds of different things you could do if you want a career shift. Now imagine if we had something that allowed you to, do something like Netflix, right? That recommends shows for you based on what you've watched before. Like, imagine that in a work context where you could be recommended for a gig opportunity in your company based on what you say you're trying to develop, because there's all this information about the skills you have. Maybe you put in the position that you're looking for in the future, and it assesses your skills gaps. Like, there's so many things that we could do with this, but I think it has to start with the intention. And so that's why I'm so passionate about efficiency not being the only intention.
Yeah, Ruth, we talked a little bit about the upskilling, actually, in the point of the diamond too. Entry level jobs. What are people looking for? What tools and benefits are they looking to get access to on day one? Can you talk a little bit about what the research shows and what you've seen?
Yeah, so we're early in this journey. This is an opening of a conversation, but I'll say what's emerging from our perspective around AI as a benefit is a premium opportunity for VSP to, in the future, give our employers. Here's a premium benefit. Here's AI as a benefit, and what it entails is taking a retinal scan, which is a picture of the back of your eye, and being able to detect 270 different conditions through the eye. But today, you go to your optometrist and you can ask for that as well, but it's not delivered in your hand. And so, what we're trying to do is pull together, along with some partners, the startups. Actually, last year we brought one of the startups, Ready Spec, here to a panel at South by to talk about Alzheimer detection through a retinal scan. And so, AI is being applied to this retinal scan to better detect these conditions so that then people can act on them or monitor those conditions through an optometrist. And it really is an opportunity for providers to expand their scope of their practice. It's an opportunity for employers to provide a premium benefit. AI is a benefit, back to that. And it's an opportunity for the member, of course, to take care of their health. So we're trying to create bridges so that the patient, who we all already know, patients are hungry for their own data. There are tons of biomarkers now that did not exist, and we want to get that into their hands as a benefit. But we also are working in the smart eyewear space where we work with Meta. They are now calling their eyewear, if you haven't heard, AI eyewear, not smart eyewear. That's another opportunity for AI as a benefit, where you will have basically an AI agent or assistant right on your face. And so we're at I wouldn't say a turning point quite yet, but we're at an early stage of where we need to pay attention to where AI is showing up as a benefit. And that's just two of many examples.
So I want to stay on wellness. Before I do that, I just want to do a little housekeeping. We are going to open it up to Q&A. So if you've got questions, ideas, things you want to propose, we're going to have an opportunity for that. But to stay on wellness a little bit, and I think we've all gone through this first wave where we've already had conversations with our companies about efficiency, about optimization. And do you really need to hire that person, or can ChatGPT just write all of our press releases going forward? But let's talk about wellness in terms of managing work-life balance and enabling individuals to get counseling, or basically the part of AI that can actually help employees live healthier lives. What are some examples of that, and where do you see it going in the future?
So I personally am happy to not stay up. Sorry, my team is here, but up late at night editing work by myself. And so I think it's a great tool to enable people to kind of self-reflect on their own work or brainstorm. But I did actually want to bring into my colleagues here. I think what we learned last year, like I said, is that we have limited talent in the AI space, and of course that talent will grow. But we have to bring in experts and those who have seen this before. And we have the luxury of 10 years ago, you had to invest in that space and take a year to hire everyone and get the building, all of that. And now we're able to tap fractional teams and those who have been through that journey before. So I just wanted to give an opportunity we have JD here, JD Hannock, who leads our data and team, which also involves AI and digital, and he's focused on the inner workings of AI within our company and our policy. And then we also have Obi Bhattacharya here, who heads up our AI studio. So he's focused on the transformational applications like I just spoke about that we're going to bring to our providers, clients, and members. So I just want to give them just a moment to share their perspective on the well-being for our VSP employees and beyond. If you want to start, JD.
Yeah, I would say AI is obviously in a moment, and I thought a couple of points here were really salient around not thinking just about efficiency is a really good point, because most of the companies that I've worked with, so I've been at VSP now for about 6 months, I would say we're not too dissimilar with a lot of other companies that I've worked with, in that there's a huge backlog of work that doesn't get done every day, and there's a lot more opportunities. It becomes difficult to measure those types of opportunities, but I think there's a real opportunity there as we're starting to really build the change management and AI in the workforce to get further. Maybe not always worrying about getting faster. And I would say the other area that I'm always interested in, especially in the AI space, is really around creativity, because AI doesn't necessarily lend itself to that creativity. You were talking a little bit about, well, ChatGPT writing an email for you or what have you. There's areas where we don't need to be creative, but so much of the goodness of what can make us go further is really going to be built around the creativity of the people that are using AI and how you're bringing that in. So, a couple of thoughts, but it'll be.
How many of you remember the first time you used a smartphone? Anybody? All right. How many of you would turn your smartphone in for a flip phone right now? I got a whole truck full of them. Awesome. All right. I like it. California
really?
sober kind of maybe. That's great. I wouldn't. I think, when you think about AI right now, yes, it's been around for a while. It's not new, right? But generative AI and the democratization of AI is new, right? And exposure is actually like a big thing, right? If you think about it from an enterprise perspective, right? In an individual even, right? Playing and prototyping with AI, like those aha moments. If you remember, like first time you saw a smartphone and Steve Jobs, like, pinching and zooming the photos, I remember being so excited about that. And then when I got it in my hand, right? Like the ability to do that was a game changer, right? So as you think about doing this at scale inside of an organization, how can you bring those magical moments, right, to an entire organization? And what I find, even personally, I don't know about all you all, I spend a lot of my time just helping my friends or colleagues prompt engineer, right? They're like, you know what? I wish I had a technical person help me build a prototype for something. I'm like, why are you talking? Open up Replit and start vibe coding right now, right? You can put it on audio and you can start building a prototype in a few minutes. And that magical moment opens up possibilities for people. And I think, we're very much at the early stage of this curve. And I love that you guys said it's an and versus an or. I think AI is an Iron Man suit. It amplifies human potential, right? It doesn't replace humans. I know that that's like the big doom and gloom, but going back even in time with like the different industrial revolutions and whatnot, yes, there's a class of folks that were left behind, but folks that wear that Iron Man suit and really amplify 10x outcomes, that's really kind of where the puck is moving. And I think AI enables us to do that. So anyway, that's a wrap.
I just wanted to give that opportunity to two of our leaders to just show that, VSP is just still figuring this out, but it's important. I think we're on the right track here. We have a dual path approach. So I just wanted to highlight that we have a ton of different applications we could take on, but we have to, I think, be centralizing and prioritizing those use cases, because as was pointed out, if you just let everyone turn it on, okay, that's one way to go about it, but you need to build the trust, but you need to do it in a way that balances that with the policy, with making sure that we are having a point of view and a direction, so that these resources don't just fall in pockets and hide, but that we can understand that Ruth is not staying up late at night. What are we getting out of that? Is she better on the panel the next day when she doesn't stay up editing work?
And Anna, I think you wanted to say something about that. My takeaway there, everybody wants to be Iron Man. It's a shorter version, but it's true.
So I've got a little bit of a hot take here. So let me preface, I'm the CIO on the panel. I'm basically a robot with two emotions. So when you talk about this stuff, it's a little, it's like, is that good or bad? I don't know which emotion to pick. But I really think on the topic of wellness in particular, I don't know, I have a feeling or an opinion that the AI inside our jobs, it will bring job satisfaction to some level, because we will be able to take out the mundane tasks, feel more productive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the wellness side, I think there's something coming in AI that is really going to help manage our personal lives better. And I really want to make that bifurcation between work and life, because we've been on this journey for so long. People talk about work-life balance, and it was work-life integration. And I'm hopeful that AI helps us to really draw those lines. Like, I don't know how many people in here are wearing Aura rings right now. Okay. I live and die by this. It helps me with my resilience. It helps me understand, hey, okay, you had a crappy day, and now I have the data that shows you had a crappy day. And when you go home, the comment earlier, work is still there. There's a backlog. IBM existed before I came here. IBM will exist after I am gone. And it's those moments, I think, that the AI driving really personal insights, what makes us, happy outside of the office, where we derive joy, where we find fulfillment. I think that's actually where the wellness angle comes in AI, is the personalized products are gonna pull us away from that work culture.
That's a great point.
I agree hard. So, as a psychologist, your emotions are on point. So, I have a little bit of a different take on this question. When you think about contemporary models of well-being, like the model that Gallup has been studying well-being for 2 or 3 decades. It includes a social connection community component. When I look at our clients who are doing really well in the well-being space, like Johnson & Johnson, Cisco, their models of well-being have a social component as well. Like, do you have community? Do you have connection? For those of you who use the Gallup Q12, do you have a best friend at work? That is a social well-being question. Now, the U.S. Surgeon General calls loneliness a public health endemic. It's a pop. Okay, people are lonely. This is especially true for younger people. Think about people that missed 2 years of college due to COVID and now they're in remote jobs. People are lonelier today than they were 5 years ago. Now, we spend more time with our coworkers than with our friends. So one of the things I love that Workhuman is doing in their technology is actually using AI to help people connect to each other. So imagine if you're writing a recognition message and you go, hey, thank you for being a great colleague. And our AI prompts you as an angel on your shoulder to say, hey, they say specifically what that person did and the impact that person had on you, right? It is coaching you to write a more heartfelt message that is helping you connect more effectively with your colleagues. And our research says that when people are recognized, they feel more connected to each other. So now your colleagues, the people who you're spending time with emulate, become your community. It is such an important thing. The other thing that we have built into our platform is something that we call the inclusion advisor, because we are fallible human beings with biases. It's a part of our cognitive wiring. And so when you write a message, it will, if you choose, highlight a part of the message that is potentially a microaggression or a bias, or might just be taken the wrong way, right? And so another way to help you connect better with your colleagues as you are saying thank you. So I think that we need to think more about this, right? Like, how we can use AI to make us more human, not less human. I will say this generically. This is just the world according to Misha Ann, okay? So take it for what it's worth. But it is so tempting on LinkedIn to make the AI write your post for you. We all know what AI voice sounds like. If you're talking about connection, I just want to ask you to maybe consider, be careful there. Make sure that your voice shines through so that in your communications, people feel like they're getting you and your personality and not just AI. AI is an amazing helper, but do not invite it to replace what is authentically your voice.
So on that point, I mean, this is exactly why I think the last year we've been thinking about the entertainment, media, and creative spaces. And that really is the path of least resistance, but is that really the best place for AI to create the most value? And so I think that's a great point. And the workplace, by the way, is more than just our white collar gyms are sitting in front of a computer. It's also the medical community and the providing community. And so last year, they published a thesis report on a feature of generative AI in healthcare. And we feature 5 different trends in where AI is being used. This is a way that we kind of bring everyone around the table and show them indicators and tell a story, because you can't move forward to the future if we're not all on the same page. So we like to share bold projections about the future. And our 5th one, usually the 5th is the spiciest, is big bad AI is a force for good. And it's because in the medical environment, there are ambient scribes now, and people are scared, obviously, of being reported by scribes. But why should you be when you're in the workplace? It's supposed to be a professional environment, and you're serving another person. And so we learned and earned the learning from those ambient scribe companies that many times people will use gestures when they're communicating.
Can you just define ambient scribes for anybody that doesn't?
It's like a note taker in the office to the provider, so that when they speak or capture notes, they ask permission to indication. It captures the content, and in many cases, it will summarize it. Again, the really linchpin here is how do you get that information back to the patient so they're not furiously calling out their notes and trying to capture this weird medical term or what it means and then Googling it later, right? We're trying to find ways to get that data exactly back into the patient's hand. But for the provider, it saves them a ton of time. 50% of their time goes to administrative tasks. So it's a huge lift from the burden that they have in the medical environments and running a practice as well. So we could talk forever about the applications in a practice because it's also running a business. But in a sense of for the scribe, they're able to then capture, translate, and send over the information. But the good part, of course, for good, is that when they're using gestures, using them now, sometimes it replaces actual words. Or sometimes they use words that someone might not understand. Or sometimes they might skip a question. We're all human. And so it allows them to have an assistant in the room prompting them, making sure they're using the correct verbiage. And in some cases, making sure that they do it in a way that's kind and not condescending. And I think that there's actually runway for that. We haven't even, it's just started.
So I think we've had a couple of spicy takes mixed in through there. I definitely have more questions, but I want to open it up to the audience to see if anybody has a question that they want to ask Hale. I think ambient scribes is an interesting thing to follow up on. I think that having the AI rewrite your notes to make you more kind to your coworkers is an interesting thing, especially because imagine that will be different company to company.
So to be clear, it doesn't rewrite us because
Offers a suggestion.
it offers a suggestion, but it also teaches you why you shouldn't say that, right? So it's all the human's choice, and the person gets suggestions of what to write, but the AI does not rewrite it. And what our clients are telling us is that it actually changes the way they communicate in other forums. So for anybody who's ever tried to do something like bias training, people get defensive, right? Because it's hard to reconcile the fact that you're a good human, but you said this biased thing. And what we're finding is that humans actually respond better when it's a machine doing a pitching instead of another human, because the machine doesn't know you, baby. It's not judge me, right? So it's different, but it is such a great use case of AI files.
We actually have a friend in the audience who had been training game designers in the use of AI, Aaron Levine.
I wonder who it is.
So I'm going to... I said, you'll know who he is. And in his hat says video games today, for those you can't see. But, Aaron, I think that you're in a creative space where people are starting to use AI. And in some ways, gaming can go one way where it brings wellness to default, and it can go the other way as well. Would love to hear how you've trained your team and how you think about the aspects of creativity, efficiency, optimization.
She didn't follow me this way entertainment where this hat way goes, so I just kind of put it on if I'd be funny. And thanks for that. So a little bit of context. You've been working with AI. I've been in video games for about 32 years now. Started about when we used like a coin to put in a machine for an experience. So I started back in arcade. But we've been using AI in video games forever. But it's just now become popularized. And to this point, to answer your question, how are you training people to utilize it? One is just like how we use language. Like what I do for a living is I creatively direct attention with my language to get an end result. That's my job. I just happen to be successful at it because other people make money, right? So I explain large language models in the same way, right? It doesn't know your tone, your timbre, the pace in which you write something or say something, what that means. So what I do a lot right now is I'm training, especially my younger staff, for the sake of like where things are going to be going. Like I've been working with a bunch of different AI companies and games, and they're all trying to anticipate like what's coming next. But if you just work with the staff, and I love this panel, by the way, isn't this a great panel? Like, it was so awesome. Like all the different perspectives from the yes, no, binaries and emotional to the health. From my perspective, it's all a game. All of us are NPCs, and so we start talking to one another. Non-playing character for those that don't play games. So we're all co-oping here. We just don't know it yet. So that's how I frame things up for my staff. Is like, unless you start talking with your other coworkers, they're just going to be an NPC to you. So how do we utilize AI to connect, to get our jobs done, but also have fun with it? So I have a whole layer of fun that I lay into AI and how we train. Everything's gamified at ARPA. Everything that I do in my life is gamified. All my kids, we're all like doing AI together. I had my youngest son call me up this morning and hopefully like walk me through a prompt that he came up with on how to do something. Like, how crazy is that? But we get down to like, it's just linguistics. How do we say something? What's a sequence? And that's where we get to that base on. So that's my long-winded way of saying, like, you have to learn, get your staff to learn, but make it fun. That emotional component is awesome. I think it's fantastic because, like, that's what, I mean, like, what's fun with all this? Like, what's the point? So we're efficient. So what? And then what? That's what a lot of time I ask my staff. I'm like, and then what? What's your problem? And then what? So we go from that. I hope this is making sense. I'm just excited to be here, and I'm just excited that we're all here. And of all the billions of people on the planet, we're all in this one little group. This is little. To listen to this, this is awesome. So I don't know if you're using Otter.ai or any kind of ambient note taking. I love that term, by the way. I'm gonna start using it. Are you ambient note taking right now?
I do it all the time.
Right?
I do it all the time. Every South by Southwest session I've gone to.
I'm doing it right now.
I mean, and then you get all the notes and then the transcript and summary. I mean, it's like I can give it my complete attention right now because I don't have to be taking notes. Something's doing that for me.
Oh my God, dude, like on the way here, like driving, I was like using Otter.ai to like talk about like what I was gonna be like, what I was thinking about what kind of app to make, and then I'm putting that into Claude.ai to make an SOP and then make the app for me while I'm just driving.
That's great. That's great. And we're gonna wrap up. I want to get future predictions from the panel real quick. But I will say I think the key takeaway is employers have to have these conversations with their employees. They're going to use the tool regardless, but you need to have these conversations, and they want to have these conversations. But let's get to our final wrap ups here. I want you to tell me what a healthy employer AI relationship looks like in 5 years. And if you want, you can say what a really unhealthy relationship looks like too. But I mostly want to hear the positive and the things that we should be aspiring to. So maybe we'll start with you, Anne, on where you're at. Maybe it's all.
What was the one question I remember hoping you were finished with wrong questions? So I love the mindset that we don't even know. I mean, technology is moving. We see like the curb's ass of hot, or it's like the hockey stick right now, how fast things are changing. Even in a company like IBM, like I said, we have all these lots of challenges, etc. Still, probably a vast majority of our company does not use AI right now. And I think we're moving to a place where I think in a very healthy way, everyone will be naturally interacting with what we would call an agent today. I'm guessing those terms are going to be gone. Yeah, agents will be gone. AGI will be gone. It'll just be, I'm talking to this thing that helps me. And my real hope is it's healthy. And I will go back to the wellness comment because I will say this is, as someone who stares at blank sheets of paper when they write an announcement, this has made my life. This very simple thing has made my life better. But I truly hope in the healthiest way, these interactions with AIs in the job make your job more joyful, make your job, you can dig in on the stuff you love digging in on, and you can let it AI do the stuff you don't want to do, and then that will allow you to make those breaks. And I think it's one of the really important things is for people to start taking their personal this best as well.
So my hope for AI in the future, number one, an expansion of intentions beyond just efficiency, right? Like I want people to start thinking more about how can AI bring out the very best of us. I want people to use more natural language processing to get important information from all of the language that's flowing around in organizations. You know, we're using it on recognition data to infer skills as an example, but there are so many other things. Like I remember when I was doing talent management and doing a culture refresh or transformation, you know, like what are the artifacts of the organization and what does it say about who you are as a preacher? Is that what you intend, right? So I think that using AI will give us just better information about what's happening in organizations that I'm hoping is that we can then turn around and use to further the good for the human and not just for work. So that's my hope.
My three parts real quick. One, I think we covered everybody wants to work in an optimized workplace. I think there's going to be less and less tolerance for working in an unoptimized workplace, and especially as Gen Z is coming in and say, "Hey, I'm willing to pay for the retinal scan more than the boomer." Like it's going to it's going to have a business case. The second is really particular to healthcare. We're seeing a lot of investment in the healthcare space around AI. And I think that's saying that the startups are not deterred about entering into the healthcare space in a way that they were before. So I'm hopeful about that. I think that we have to realize that we can find a way to be secure, reduce risk, and start providing value. I mean, it's inevitable that we're going to get there, and we can't let just that challenge stop us in our tracks. I mean, third is we hear all this input as we said today about employee work choices, and employees want inclusion, belonging, and trust. We're also in a world where we don't trust information, right? But having a company-wide source of truth or an industry-wide source of truth can actually really unify people. So especially in an industry like vision care, which is quite fragmented. Again, I was talking about the private practices. These are solo entrepreneurs. They don't have the bigger picture many times. So I think this is actually going to be a source for unification. I'm hopeful for that.
Fantastic. I also have three things to say, but before I do that, I want to get a big round of applause to our panelists. Super great conversation.